Welcome to the Elevate Your Public Speaking Business webinar. This is part of the Mastermind series to elevate your public speaking, with the focus tonight on hitting the stage and mastering the stage and really being your best, authentic, true self when you're on that stage. So I am going to walk you through some of the best practices that I have discovered with over 22 years of speaking to multiple settings, whether it was a prison, a college, a corporate setting, or a virtual webinar. You are going to learn to master the stage. Okay, so if you are ready to monetize your magnificence, if you're ready to elevate your public speaking, this is one module out of a 6-week mastermind group. And we'll talk about that in a moment, the 3 groups that I have. So, when we talk about how to elevate your public speaking, the number one thing is we need to master is our own self, right? Master self, master others, master a team. So I'm going to teach you some really practical techniques to get rid of your nerves, to help relax your body, calm your mind. And when I say relax your body, calm your mind, it starts with the body. Uh, Thoughts live in the mind and emotions live in the body. I learned that from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And that's why in the book on trauma, I'm sure you know about it, Veronica, the body keeps the score. They say your body holds all the trauma inside of your body, which is the whole mind body connection. So we're going to use our breath to calm our body. And then that's going to calm our mind and focus our mind, because the key thing is to be able to focus on your topic when you're speaking so you don't freeze up. I think we talked about this before with Bertha, and we are going to be able to just stay in alignment. All right. So the second thing is we're going to organize our talk for maximum impact. We need to make sure that our message is clear, compelling, so it holds people's attention, and that we're able to drop the mic because it's going to be an unforgettable talk. I think I mentioned previously that I had an audience member that was literally in a speaking engagement I did 16 years ago. He actually hired me for a contract. It was like a 3-year contract, actually. He said he never forgot me because I was salsa dancing at the end. Not just me, but all of us were salsa dancing at the end of my presentation. He thought that was unforgettable. So, what is your signature to make you unforgettable? Are you a singer, like our speaker, Audra, and you're going to end with a song? Are you a saxophone player like Bill Clinton? You're going to end with picking up a sax. Are you funny? You're going to end with a joke. Are you spiritual? You're going to end with a passage. Are you transformational? You're going to end with an inspirational story. What are you going to do that's going to make you unforgettable? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how to keep timing. I literally now have like a clock in my head, but before I didn't. And there's a big difference between virtual timing and in-person timing. So we're going to talk about the difference and how you can integrate a timer in your head so that you're going to be able to be on time. It's very important. Most important thing as a professional speaker is that you are on time. Next, we want to be able to deal with audience disruptions, right? Whether it's an earthquake, had that. Whether it's an evacuation, I had that. One time I had a tornado. Okay. We actually didn't make it to the stage on that one. It was in, I'll never forget, Armstrong Atlantic State University. And this is why you want to have a rock solid contract, which is included in your program under resources, because they still had to pay me because it was in the contract. Force majeure, if there's natural disasters, I still traveled, showed up, prepared the speech. It's not my fault. There was a natural disaster. It wasn't their fault either, but it is what it is. We had a contract. Okay, next, we want to talk about how to get future business from our audience. All right, so we want to leave them wanting more, but then also make our audience members our brand ambassadors. So, how do we elevate our public speaking? Before we even get on the stage, we want to set the tone. And how do we set the tone? One, we could have empowering music play. Before I had my own music, I would have J-Lo Let's Get Loud playing. Let's get loud. But what is the problem with playing a J-Lo song or playing any song that's commercial? If you want to use that video on your YouTube and there is commercial music, you can't. So it would mess up the beginning of my video, which is not good. So I had a musician create a song for me. So I have my own song that is playing when I walk up to the stage, and I can give you guys a copy so you can hear it. But it has like kind of like a salsa Latin flavor, and it gets people excited. I even work with the audio visual person who is your best friend. Make sure you do your sound check the night before and make friends with the audio visual person, as he is the best person for you, because if he likes you, if he loves you, he's going to do bells and whistles. I had one AV guy that not only recorded the presentation, gave me the presentation, live streamed he did all these things that wasn't even in his contract, just because we formed a rapport. Form a rapport with the AV guy. If something goes wrong, he or she or they has your back. Okay. The other thing that you want to have is a powerful introduction, right? So one of the things that you have in your resource folder is I gave you a sample introduction, and I do customize it for each and every presentation, but it's basically bullet points. You could do it as a paragraph, but most people, presenters that are introducing you, they don't like to read, they're shy, they're not good at pronouncing things, and you just want to make it as easy for them as possible, but you want them to set you up to earn the right. So remember when we have the keynote template of all the information when you're organizing your keynote presentation? Well, part of that is really having that captivating earn the right statement. And the captivating earn the right statement shouldn't come from you, it should come from the introducer. So the introducer is going to have that, okay? So you're going to have that. The other thing that you can do, I've seen some speakers do it, is you could play a short version of your sizzle reel. So like my sizzle reel is 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. I wouldn't play that because that's too long. But if I had a 30-second video, or I can edit that to a 30-second version, and I could play that, you could see all the logos of the places that I spoke at, maybe some key moments, audiences clapping and raving, and already the crowd is hyped. And this is really more if you're going to be a keynote speaker. If you're just doing a breakout workshop, you don't have to do all of this, but I'm just elevating your public speaking because you may be taking center stage, right? So I'm just having you think big. So before you get on stage, number one, you need to have a powerful introduction. Number two, you want to have music. It's ideal if you have your own music created. I mean, even AI can help you make music, I'm sure, that you could just make sure that you have the rights to use it, and use it on YouTube, because YouTube is where you're going to be marketing your speaking, right? And then make sure that the introducer has your introduction. So you know what I do? Because this is how you're going to elevate. So many times my introducer, for whatever reason, they're busy, they forgot, they're doing a million things, they don't have it, they forgot it. So what I do is I bring 2 hard copies with me. And when they say, oh, I forgot it, no problem, I have it. Because it's going to make a huge difference with how the audience responds to you having that introduction. The music is next level, the video is next level. But as you get from a $500 speaker, $2,500 speaker, $3,500, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, let's just say, and above, you want to elevate, right? So how do you elevate? These are the components. The next thing I like to have is 3 P's to do before you even hit the stage. Number one, and I know I've talked about this before, going to say it again, is practice, practice, practice. When I first started preparing for my speaking gigs, I was not practicing out loud. You know how I was practicing? I was reading. I would get my piece of paper with my script. Oh, we love checks. And I would be reading them, right? That wasn't helping my brain to retain the information. What helps your brain to retain the information, especially when they cut your time, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And when they say, oh, instead of 45 minutes, you have 30 minutes, or instead of 30 minutes, you have 20 minutes, we'll talk about. If you practice, you're going to know what to cut. And also, when you practice, it's not only in your brain, it's in your body. And if you really do your due diligence and practice, it's in your soul. It is not even in your brain. Because if it's in your brain, you're almost remembering it. And it's kind of like an instructor or a teacher that's speaking from memory. It's kind of monosyllabic. It's okay, but it's not elevated. We're elevating, remember? So if you get it in your body, you're not only speaking it, you're feeling it. Remember, emotions in the body? So you're acting it out. You're really bringing it to life. And if you are speaking from the soul, which orators do, amazing speakers do, they're not even, it seems so effortless. It's almost as if it's being channeled through them. So, which brings me to my next point, pray. So, I'm not kidding about this. So, not only do I pray before I get on stage, but I have my prayer partner pray for me. If you're not a praying person, then you can ask people to send you positive vibes. By the way, every time I do a presentation, like a speaking gig live on stage or a big one online, I will ask my social media also to pray for me. And you know what that does? It makes me human because I don't pretend like I have it all together. I, like all human beings, get nervous. But remember what we talked about before? Anxiety is just misdirected excitement, right? So when you go to get on stage, there is so much adrenaline from the lights and the camera and the 6 or 10 months of preparation and the people in the audience and the eyeballs and the alleged pressure that maybe you put on yourself. So when you pray, it releases that. And my prayer is always that may this presentation be absolutely the best ever. May I say what needs to be said. May people hear what needs to be heard. And may it be transformational for everyone here. And then I let it go. Sometimes I'll add, and may it lead to many more follow-up speaking gigs. It's a good one to add. Add that. Okay. And you can even add in, may I be in the flow, may I be articulate, may I be funny, whatever you want to add to it. But as long as I say that I say what needs to be said, they hear what needs to be heard, and that they're transformed, I feel a weight lifted off my shoulder. And I know it's done. And I'll text my prayer partner and she'll say, got it, done. And I'll be like, cool. And I just relax and I'm at ease after that. Okay. So really, really important to, and it's really, I talk about it in my book, Confessions of an Adrenaline Addict. It's the power of surrender. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is letting go of control, because we have no control over situations, circumstances, and conditions outside of ourselves, but we have all the control in the world of what's inside of ourselves, our thoughts in our mind, our feelings in our body. So when we pray, we surrender that to the higher power, and it just unfolds beautifully each and every time. Trust me. Okay, the third P, and we're going to talk about this on the next slide. It has to do with positioning, okay? It's very, very important, especially if you're like me and you are 5'0". I'm literally 60 inches. Most podiums are like 50 inches, right? So if I stand, I didn't even put a podium on this slide. If I stand behind the podium on the stage, not only won't you see me, but you won't feel me, right? If you watch my demo reel, I could show it if you want to see it. I never am behind the podium. Why? Because my speaking coach literally took me on the stage and she had tape on the stage, and she taped the center, she taped the left, and she taped the right. And she says, the first thing you do when you get on the stage is you pause. It's another P, right? You pause and you look center, you look left, you look right, you breathe, and then you begin. Because if you don't, because of the adrenaline that's built up, you're going to start speaking and you're going to get ahead of yourself because your body's just catching its breath. And depending on how long you have to walk, I try not to walk that long to the stage because it just, it can get you too hyped. And then you calm and you anchor and you take that stage. That is your stage. You own that stage. It is yours. And in order for you to make it your own, you need to be centered. You need to be grounded. You need to be anchored and you need to be positioned in front of the podium. And what I do is I stand in the front of the podium in the center. And and usually the clock and my notes are on the podium and I leave them there. And when I need to go back and like, if I needed to check a note or if I needed to check the time, I could always go back behind the podium. But you need to anchor yourself in the center and then make sure you're spending some time going to the right and going to the left because you don't know who you're talking to, right? And I've talked to audiences of 3 people, 50 people, 150 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. Here's the thing. When you're in big auditoriums, you can, with the lighting and everything, I remember the Parents as Teachers National Conference when I was with Stedman Graham, had a limo. It's pretty awesome. I could only see the first 50 people. I couldn't see the people in the back, right? So I needed to just so you're just connecting with the people that represent the people in the center and the people that represent the people on the left and the people that represent people on the right. You ever hear musicians in concert? I want to know, if you see New Edition, where are my people on the left? Where are my people on the right? And in the middle, they'll even say it, right? Or comedians, right? You don't have to do that rah rah hooray stuff unless you want to. But what you do want to do is give equal attention, right? And what I like to do is I like to connect with an audience member that's smiling, happy, or that's like, yeah. Because I have to tell you something about being on stage. It's very fascinating to me. It's usually the person that looks upset or angry or annoyed or bored that actually really loves you. Okay. It happened to me like 10 times. And then I realized it wasn't just a fluke. Right. So usually there's someone in the audience and they're like, or they're like, and they're like, it's just their resting face, right? It's their resting thinking face, right? So they're thinking and they're processing, and the information you're giving them, they're like, whoa, this is interesting. This is good. So they're into it. They're really into it. So in order for you to really, not get thrown off by their crazy face, is to know that if it's going to throw you off, then look at the smiling face, because always that person will come up to me afterward, not always, but 95% of the time, and say, I just loved you. And I'm always shocked. And they're like buying a book and buying a coaching program and doing this and doing that. I'm like, wow, I didn't know. They were like, yeah, you were really rocking my world. I was just thinking about all the ways I could use your information. So they could just be integrating and applying it in their mind as they're looking very strange. So don't let it throw you off, okay? Don't let the lights throw you off. Just focus. It doesn't matter if you can't see everything that's going on. That's not your job. Your job is to be present in the moment. Ooh, that's another P. We could add more P's to our list, right? So we want to practice, we want to pray, we want to position, we want to be present in the moment, because when you're present in the moment, your thoughts aren't going to go to remembering your speech. The reason that you may get tripped up when speaking, not on my watch, but you may have gotten tripped up in the past, is because you went up to your head, you went up to your mind. And remember, when we're speaking, we want to either be in our body or connected with our soul. Our bodies where the emotions are, right? So We cannot be in our body when we're up in our head thinking about the past, thinking about what we wrote on the speech. Remember, we're not remembering the speech. We rehearsed it. We practiced it out loud. I like to practice my speeches while I'm on a walk with my dog. I'll practice it out loud in the airport. I've practiced a speech one time. You're gonna laugh at me. In Florida, in the pool. I was in the pool because it's hot in Florida. And literally this guy that was in the pool when I was done, and it was like 45 minutes. He listened to the whole thing. He clapped for me. He was like, that was good. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know you were listening. You know, everybody thinks you're on the phone. So you can literally practice driving in the car, walking down the street, at the airport, anywhere you want, maybe even on the plane. The person next to you can listen and encourage you. Just make sure that you practice. And I like to practice the introduction, the conclusion separately from the body, right? And remember, we're going to talk about organizing your speech in the body. But if you focus on nailing the introduction so that people are like, wow, and having a captivating, unforgettable conclusion so people are like, whoa. In the middle, as long as you have one piece of good content that's juicy, they're going to love you. They already love you. Okay. So, how do we reduce anxiety, which we all know is misdirected excitement, right? We want to shift your energy from self to what? Service. Service, right? So, the only reason you're anxious is because you're thinking about you. Okay. This speech is not about you. You're not the sage on the stage. You are the vessel and the vehicle, the messenger for the message. You are the messenger for the message, okay? So let go. It doesn't matter what they think of you. It doesn't matter what you think about what they think of you or what you think they're thinking about you. The only thing that matters is the information. Because remember, the intention is the information leads to transformation. And if you don't pray, you could just set an intention, right? Your intention could be, my intention is that everybody's transformed. Cool. Have that, right? So information to transformation. The only way that that's going to happen is if you are fully present. The only way you could be fully present is if you're serving them. Think of yourself as a teacher, as an educator, as a counselor. You love to help people. I know that because the people that I attract like helping people. You are helpers of people. I know you. And because you love to help people and you have not just a message, you have a movement. You have a movement that is really going to make an impact down the world. And your audience members are going to spread this movement. So it's very important that you get this message clearly to them. All right. All right. So, how are we going to do that? We are going to be of service, not care about ourselves, surrender what they think of us, and focus how we can help them. So, you know, the quality of your life is the quality of the questions is the quality of your life. So instead of saying, what do they think of me? Say, how am I serving them? How is my speech providing solutions for them? Be them oriented rather than you oriented. Okay. So let's break it down to the organization of our speech. Now, whether you are doing a keynote, whether you are doing a breakout, whether you are doing a webinar, right? Like this webinar, I'm giving you facts and then I'm giving you stories of what happened with me. I could give you also a case study. Like I did this morning, I was teaching a webinar on how to use AI to blow up your business, which is part of this mastermind series. You could do an illustration, right? So whatever works for your style. And then you want to end with a call to action. So let's say I'm going to start with number one. Fact. You don't have to be on every social media marketing platform. You only need to be on the platforms where your target market reside. And then I'm going to tell you a story. There was a story of my client who was completely burnt out on every social media marketing platform. I gave them a social media marketing strategy that focused on only 2 platforms. And we created, using AI, a fantastic customized content calendar. And she was able to triple her business in only 90 days. So, my call to action for you is to choose 2 social media platforms, not 5, not 10, 2. Focus all your energy on those. Pick the ones where your target market is and focus on solving the pain and problem of your target market. You will see your sales go through the roof. Okay. So I just gave you a mini speech. Fact, social media. 2, story of a client, case study. Then call to action. This is what I want you to do. See that? Wow. Before I did this point 1, point 2, point 3, by the way, this is not my brilliant, unique idea. This is something that speakers, professional speakers, public speakers, speakers that have been elevated to the next level, like Patricia Fripp. When Patricia Fripp speaks and does, YouTube videos, she speaks at the National Speakers Association. She was one of the most memorable speakers that I ever saw, which is why, in 12 years, a member of the National Speakers Association, there's 3 people I remember: Les Brown, Patricia Fripp, and my coach, Pekin Echevarria, right? Everybody else, I don't remember. There's tons of speakers. Do I know their names? No. They were memorable, right? So we need to be memorable. How are you going to be memorable? Organize your speech. So part of what you have in the resource section is a handout for this. And I want you to do this for this week. I want you to fill out your fact, story, call to action, because for our final presentations, which by the way, I'm going to invite the person from the Speakers Bureau that wants our graduates to speak at the Caribbean locations. Remember I mentioned that? We want to make sure that your speech is tight, that it's right and tight, okay? How is your speech going to be right and tight? You are going to be organized. Fact 1, story, call to action. Obviously, if there was more time, you could do 2 points or 3 points. But one thing I've learned from doing a million webinars during the pandemic, when I say a million, I was doing 5 to 8 webinars a week for 2 years. That is a lot of webinars. And all the webinars, well, 99% of them I created. So it was my material that I also spent time creating. That's how I kept myself from going crazy during the pandemic. I just got really creative. It's always great to reduce anxiety, to be of service. Going back to the last slide. So using this and, use the template that I provided for you, and then you'll be able to really get that. Okay. All right. So when we talk about time management, I used to teach classes in time expansion, by the way, when I was working a lot with corporate. And there is time management when we are on stage, just like there's time management when you're on virtual, right? I can scroll up and see how much time I've been talking for 30 minutes. Okay. It felt like 30 minutes in my mind. So I can pace myself depending on how many slides do I have left, how much time I want to spend on each slide. I know how to go with it. But virtual is a little bit easier because like you can have big clocks. I used to have when I first started doing virtual, I bought this huge clock. I don't know where it is. It was a digital clock. And then I have this other clock. I don't even use them anymore, but I used to have them right at my fingertips because it's so important that you begin and end on time. And speaking of time, as a elevated speaker, especially if you're speaking at a huge conference, you always want to arrive the day before in case earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes. Even the tornado that I had that got canceled, I did arrive the day before, but they didn't know the tornado switched directions, and thank God, no, not too many people were hurt. But it was crazy. Okay, that's unexpected. But for the most part, you always want to arrive the day before. Why? Because, and I know Veronica knows this, she just spoke in Canada, is because there's a time adjustment usually. So if you're on a different time frame, you want to make sure that you're adjusted to that new time frame. Especially, I was speaking in Texas at the Department of Justice. See, I just did fact. Now I'm doing story, and then I'll do call to action. See, I'm doing it. Every slide I'm doing fact, story, call to action. So I was speaking at the Department of Justice and I was doing back to back. Was it the Department of Justice? No, it was the Department of Treasury. It was where they print the money. And I remember they literally would walk me to the bathroom. I don't know if they thought I was going to get into a vault and steal $100 million in my pocket, but I had to have a chaperone going to the bathroom. I was like, what is this New Jack City? It was crazy. Anyway, it was so cool. But I had to do my first presentation at, it was it 5 in the morning? No, it was 6 in the morning. But my time, Pacific time, was 3 in the morning. And usually the night before, I can't sleep well when I'm at a hotel away from home and I didn't sleep well and I was a basket case. Oh my God. But what I learned from pro speakers, elevation tip. You ready? Ready? Is what you want to do when you get to a new city, if it's not snowing, is go outside and put your feet on the grass or on the dirt or on the sand, if there's sand, because there wasn't sand in Texas where I was. I was in, where was I? Dallas, Houston. Sometimes you don't know where you are. Oh, I was in Houston. And by the way, at that time in Houston, it was very hard to get an Uber. I ended up having to get a limousine because at 4 in the morning when I had to leave, I couldn't get an Uber. So I had to get a limousine because there weren't taxis. I don't know. It was crazy. So make sure you organize that ahead of time as well, right? So when you put your feet barefoot, it actually aligns your body to the circadian rhythm. You can look this up in the book Grounding, they talk about it, so that you're on the time zone where you are. So you don't have to have jet lag. Hmm, very cool. Okay. And so that's some preparation for getting off jet lag. When you're virtual, you have a clock. When you're virtual, I also set an alarm on my phone. Sometimes it's annoying, but it's necessary. And I set alarms when I want to wrap up to take questions. And I also set an alarm a half an hour before the Zoom to get on the Zoom. We had obviously crazy, I had craziness yesterday with Zoom, and I thought it was me, but it was actually Zoom changed their interface, and their interface completely stopped working during the transition. But these are the kind of things that happen. So the earlier you arrive, when things happen, you can deal with them. Or if you're in person, your AV person can deal with them. That's the great part about being in person. You don't have to deal with that stuff. And usually, when I'm speaking virtually online, it's not on Zoom because most corporations are not allowed to use Zoom for privacy features. So they use Adobe or they use their own system. And then they have a person that's doing all the audio. You just show up with your slides ready. Speaking of slides, always give your event coordinator a copy of your slides. If it's in person on a USB, if it's virtual, digitally, so that they can access it in case you can't share your screen. Sometimes virtually, I haven't been able to share my screen for whatever reason, but thank goodness now I'm doing all my presentations on Canva. So I don't have to download and convert to a PDF. It's in a link version. I just tell the organizer, don't give people the link to my presentation, give them a PDF. Do that because you don't want people to steal your material. Most speakers, by the way, don't put a lot of their content on their slides. They speak their content because as you can see, my slide doesn't have, I used to in the olden days, PowerPoint, then Google Slides have bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And that was when I was a newer speaker because I didn't want to forget my points. So it was like if the bullets were on my slide. So if you're comfortable with that, you can still do that. But what I find, especially with a keynote, it's distracting. And if the technology clicker doesn't work, it could throw you off completely. If you have bullet points and it's operating by clicker, it could throw you completely off. It's better to have a static slide that's not animated for big keynotes because you never know if the clicker is going to be low on battery and you could bring a back. I would bring my own clicker to make sure, and I would test it with the AV guy the night before. And then sometimes still you get on stage and it doesn't work. So always be prepared to give your presentation, even if you don't have slides, right? Or if they don't work, always have a backup to the backup. Okay. Okay. So for virtual, we have the backup slides, we have a clock. I use my alarm. I have an alarm for a half an hour before to do half an hour to 15 minutes before to do sound and audio check, make sure everything's open. For in person, I usually get there 2 hours before, and even I'll listen to the speaker before. And I have a tip for you. Remember, I mentioned that you can make your audience member your speaking agent? Where do you think the most people get speaking engagements from? The follow-up speaking engagements from the audience members. So there are hacks to be able to do lead generators to get them. You can have a barcode scanner on a slide so you can get them to join your email list or your funnel. And then I have people that have been on my list for 20 years that are just now hiring me for coaching or buying my products and services. You never know when people are going to be ready. But the other way of getting speaking gigs, I arrive 2 hours early, and then I try, like a politician, sin vergüenza, to shake as many hands as possible. I literally start at the back of the room and I say, "Hi, I'm Deborah. Nice to meet you." Hi. And I don't say I'm the speaker. Some people recognize me from the program because usually there's a picture of me in the program, or there's a poster of me at the front door, but I'll just shake hands, introduce myself to as many people as I can. And guess what? Usually the people that I talk to and that I have rapport with will be the ones to bring me in to speak. In fact, I have to follow up. Note to self, follow up with, and that's part of our role as a public paid speaker, is to create some sort of a contact management system where you're following up with people that hired you to speak before, because those are your fans. They're not just people that like you, they're people that love you. So you want to follow up with them. So going back to time management in person, I usually ask somebody in the audience, the organizer or the co-organizer, to give me, because they'll ask me, "Do you want a timer?" I'm like, "Yeah, give me a 15-minute, give me a 10-minute, give me a 5-minute, or you may want a 30-minute and a 5-minute." Ask them, they'll give you a card. And if you go to Toastmasters, highly recommend, one of the best things you could do to elevate your speaking career is to not only go to Toastmasters, but speak every week. Do you know the famous podcaster Lewis Howes? He has a great podcast, #1 podcast on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, called The School of Greatness. He said that he was scared to speak. That was an anxiety he had. His coach told him every week to do speeches on at Toastmasters, and now he's one of the top rated speakers out there. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, so Toastmasters, because they have you do 5-minute speeches, 10-minute speeches, 20-minute speeches, and they give you red, yellow, green timers. They get you to really be on point when it comes to timing. I would not be good at timing unless I went to Toastmasters. And I went to Toastmasters for multiple years. I don't know how many total years, maybe like 7 years. So, and I know people that are professional speakers that still go to Toastmasters because they do it for networking. They just give speeches on the topic that they speak on. And then people are like, "Wow, you're excellent." And then they get invited to speak somewhere. My first speaking engagement that I got was from a Toastmasters audience member. Where is your best place to get paid speaking engagements? In audiences, because people need to hear you speak. It's the try before you buy. Okay, we've spent enough time on the time management slide. Let's go. All right. So now we're going to talk about how to tell a compelling story. So this is called the dip theory. It's also known as the valley theory. Lisa Nichols made it popular. There's another in your resource page. I also put Patricia Fripp, and a video from her on how to do her theory. I don't love her theory as much, and I don't think that it works for many speakers, whereas, because it's more distinctive to her, whereas the dip theory, as opposed to the Fripp theory, is easier to apply. So I'm going to show you how to do this. This is something that speakers like Lisa Nichols do. A lot of speakers do this. And Lisa Nichols says, if you go to YouTube, you can see her talking about the dip theory, and I have a link for you on it. she said that when she was on the Oprah show, the reason that she got the most exposure on the show out of the four speakers from the movie The Secret that Oprah was interviewing was because she did the dip theory. Lisa Nichols said, "What most of you know about me is I was in The Secret, is a popular movie, but what you don't know is I'm from South Central LA. I grew up," and then she gives her whole poverty story, this, that, this, that, this, that. And she's like, and almost tears when she tells her story, because when she tells her story, she's not just talking it from the head, she's feeling it with the body. Okay. And when you give a speech where you feel with your body, this happens to me. I've told my brother's story many times. I'll have a tear in my eye, which sometimes is good and sometimes is challenging. Depending on your audience, it can be triggering to them based on maybe they lost somebody really close in their life and they have to leave the room because they're crying. They're really triggered. So you got to be careful with that, depending on who's in the audience. I mean, you're never going to know who's going through what in the audience. So you have to use your power and discernment what to share. And then the next thing you say is, "That is why I'm so passionate about being with you here today. You see, I'm committed to." Okay. And you want to make it relevant around your topic. Like today's topic is elevate your public speaking. So I'll do a dip about that. Okay. So, what most of you know about me is that I am a motivational speaker, author, consultant, and AI trainer. But what you don't know about me is that I am a survivor of a brutal attack and assault. And for many years, I actually didn't even put my speaking events on my website because the person that attacked me when I went to the police and they did nothing before the Me Too movement started stalking me and would show up to women's conferences at my events. And I was terrified. I was totally in panic, totally in anxiety, and I literally had to shut down my speaking business for a period of 3 years. At that time, I was going through a divorce. I went through a bankruptcy. I went through a foreclosure. I felt like after decades of building my business, I had lost everything because of this person that assaulted me. But what I realized was no one has power over where you focus your energy and attention. And I was not going to let him turn me into a victim. So one day I woke up and I decided that being of service and transforming the world was more important and was my mission on this planet to help people to transform and really live their passion and to really monetize their magnificence, that I was not going to let him stop me. And I started speaking again. And I started putting my events on my website again. And I started getting out there. And that's why I'm so passionate about being here with you today, because I'm never going to let anybody silence my voice. And it is my role and responsibility to make sure that your voice is elevated. Ooh, I felt that. Oh, I've actually never done that before. Bravo. Ooh, I'm gonna start crying. I did not expect to say that. That wasn't what I was gonna say, but that's what you needed to hear. Ooh, okay. So you have to make sure that whatever you say, that it's not going to make you too emotional that you can't go on. And if you do get emotional, take a breath. Like I'm taking a breath. And that's happened to me on stage where I told the story of my brother, which is a story I thought I was going to tell you of when my brother passed away, and people get emotional. And what I realize is, when you're speaking, it's like singing, it's pacing. So if you want to elevate your speaking, it's okay to speed up. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to pause. It's okay to even have a radio silence just to let everybody integrate the power of what you just shared. Okay. So that's the dip theory. It's good, huh? So it's a way of getting your story, and it doesn't have to be something so dramatic, like a death or an attack. It could be something a little lighter. Let me see if I could give you another dip that's a little lighter. What most of you know about me is I'm a keynote speaker, author, and public speaking coach. But what you don't know about me is I struggle with attention deficit disorder. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 35 years old. And I went to a therapist because I was stressed out going through my divorce. And the therapist was like, "You know, you're ADD, don't you? Would you like some medication?" And I said, "No, thanks, lady. Meditation is my medication." But it was helpful to know that I was ADD because I would have so much trouble focusing, so much trouble staying organized, so much trouble losing things. Thank God for air tags that I have things. And I remember someone insulted me like, "Oh, you could never be a mother. You would leave your kids somewhere." And I was just like, "Oh, that's so rude." But being ADD has something that I used to hide and be ashamed of. And then I realized so many successful entrepreneurs are ADD, or what they call now neurodivergent, where your brain works in different ways. And my brain just opens up a million windows all at once, but it can make it very, very difficult to focus and concentrate. And it wasn't until I read the book, The Power of Full Engagement, that it helped me to focus my energy. And it wasn't until I wrote my book, Confessions of an Adrenaline Addict, that I learned 7 principles to be able to be successful without going crazy from my wild ADD. So that is why I'm so committed to helping you to monetize your magnificence and elevate your business. Because if I can do it with ADD, anyone can do it. Woo! I like the way I clap for myself. At Toastmasters, they said, "Don't clap for yourself," but I'm going to clap for myself, and I'm going to clap for you. So you like this dip theory? So what I want you to do is I want you to practice 2 or 3 dips. So I want you to write this out. I made it really easy. What most of you know about me is your accolades, something you've achieved, that you're award winning this, that you have this bachelor's degree, this master's degree, that you wrote this book, that you have this podcast, that you did this. But what you don't know is I have scars, or what you don't know is I'm an ADD, or I'm a survivor, or I whatever. And then you take them down to a low point in your life that's relevant to your speech. And then you take them back up and you say, "That's why I'm passionate about helping you." And then people are like, "Darn, you are amazing." Get it? Get it? Get it? Okay. Awesome. I'm so glad. I want you to practice that. 3. I want 3 of them. Okay. All right. So, what did we talk about today? Ooh, we're right on time. I said that this was going to be 50 minutes, and it's 50 minutes. From the time I started till right now, it's 50. Exactly. Timing, timing, timing. Okay. So what did we talk about today? Because here, let me tell you something. You always want to tell people what you're going to cover, then you want to cover it, and then tell them what you covered. Okay. I didn't go over in the intro what we were going to cover because you read it when you signed up. You knew what the bullet points were. So I didn't have to go over that. But number 1, you're owning your stage. So, how do you own your stage and manage your energy? When you get on stage, you don't start talking right away. You poise yourself and position yourself, step in front of the podium or have the mic. I always like to get one of these kind of mics, the Tony Robbins type mics. I don't want to hold a mic, a lapel mic, because then you have your arms to use as illustrators, right? How are you going to manage your energy? You're going to center. You can even take some deep breaths. You can look to the left, look to the right. Don't take too many deep breaths, or people are going to be like, "Is she okay? Is he okay?" Then you have already prepared. So you've prayed, you've practiced, you've positioned yourself, and you've not only positioned yourself on stage, but you positioned yourself in the room by meeting people. Remember, I said, come the day before, go to their networking mixer, whatever they have, go to their events, meet as many people, introduce yourself to as many people as possible, make friends with the audience members. That way, when you're speaking, They're not strangers, but they are people that you already have a rapport with. Okay. The next thing that we talked about is how to organize your content. I gave you samples: fact, story, call to action, fact, story, call to action. It's really important to have a call to action. Okay. If you don't have a call to, I mean, not every speaker has a call to action. Maybe I have a call to action because I'm action oriented as a coach and as a person that likes results. But the more you get people results, the more you're going to be called back to speak. So you don't have to do the call to action. You definitely want to do a fact and a story. But if you do a call to action, and the call to action could be just applying what you just taught them, right? Give them an application step that they can do. That way they feel that they walked away with value. Anytime people can feel they walked away with value, they're going to love it. Okay. Next, timing is everything. Whether you're virtual or on stage, if you're not early, you're late. For a webinar, you want to be there 30 to 15 minutes early. For in person, 2 hours early, and definitely arrive if you're flying in the day before. I have gotten places like 5 hours early. When I do this 8-week boot camp for entrepreneurs in Camarillo, and I take the train there, and so many times the train has had issues that I plan to arrive 5 hours early. And when the train 3 times had issues, I still was on time because I allowed for that. I allocated for a mishap with the train and a 3-hour delay. So it was always on time. Okay. Timing is very important. Storytelling wows people. So we talked about the Fripp theory that you can look up, Patricia Fripp, and you can see the link in your resource section. And then we have the dip theory. So the dip theory allows you to tell your story in a deeper, more profound way. Okay. So for those of you that want to know more, you can schedule a one-on-one with me. If you need support, you can schedule a one-on-one session with me. I can help you with doing your dip. I can help you with organizing your speech. I can help you whatever you need, right? So I want you to know that this is part of a series. So this Monetize Your Magnificence series is 3 mastermind groups, right? So Elevate Your Speaking has 5 modules. This is one of 5 modules. The Market Your Speaking Business has 5 modules, right? And then a presentation, right? So that's about, how to understand your unique value proposition, how to pick your perfect audience, how to do your social media marketing, how to get your website up to speed, and then you do a presentation, right? Then there's how to leverage AI for public speakers. That's how to customize your AI to be your speaking agent, how to use AI to create your social media posts, how to use AI to automate the systems in your business to create turnkey webinars, online programs, podcasts, how to do market research with AI to find speaking gigs, and how to do follow-up CRM with AI. So, and each one of the mastermind programs so there's 3 groups, right? 3 cohorts, and each one has 5 modules, right? Get it? So Elevate Your Speaking has 5 modules, Market Your Speaking Business has 5 modules, and Leverage Your AI for public speakers. Not everybody wants to be in a mastermind. I do, because not only do you get me as your facilitator, but you get an accountability buddy. You get a community membership group on Facebook. Right now, we're using Facebook. And you also get help in following through with the income producing activities. We don't have homework, but we have IPAs, right? And these assignments set you up because I've taught this class before. I've taught it different ways. I've taught it as a half day Be a Paid Speaker workshop. I've taught it as a full day Be a Paid Speaker workshop. I've taught it as a 3-month program. I've taught it as a 4-month program. Where's the sweet spot? 6 weeks. Okay. Why? Because you can stay focused. You can stay engaged for 6 weeks, right? And you can take a break from one cohort and go to another one, go to another one. You don't have to do them in any order, but I will not take people that are not going to do the work. Why? Because I don't want to take your money, have you buy the program and not get results. This program is only for magnificent people that want to monetize their skills, talents, and abilities and make money doing what they love. How are you going to do that? You're going to follow through on your assignment. So make sure those of you that are not caught up, you catch up, because each week there is income producing activities. And why are those important? Because those are exactly what you need to get booked to speak, right? So it's recommended that you do elevate your speaking first, and then market your speaking business second, and then leverage AI for public speakers third. However, like many of you, you can do this one first, the market your speaking business first, and then go to elevate your speaking, and then go to leverage AI. If you don't want to be a part of the synergistic mastermind, there's a self-study option, which for those of you that are traveling a lot, or you have a lot of children, you have evening things that you can't do, we are going to start offering this during the day as well, though. You have a self-study option. So you could do you don't have to attend live. You can just do it on your own and do that track. There's also a Maximize program where, in addition to the mastermind, you get one-on-one coaching with me. So that's an option for you as well. So you could do one cohort, you could do 3 cohorts, you could do the self-study, you could join our mastermind, get the synergy, because you learn from other speakers, bounce ideas off each other. We also have fun bonuses like guest speakers, field trips with our mastermind. We really create community. We're going to support one of my clients do her TED Talk. There's so many exciting things we do in the mastermind. Private coaching is awesome because you get my attention focused on you and all the other components, the recordings and the live. So if you're interested in more, you can go to deborahderas.com/mastermind and find out more. All right. So hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, I'll be here you can email me your questions, deb@deborahderas.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the stage. Remember, with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Ciao.